cargo capsule was bringing back space station experiments. In both cases, the capsules landed safely as the sluggish parachute eventually opened, but did so more than a minute late. Officials for NASA and SpaceX say they want a better understanding of what's going on, especially before launching another crew in a month or so. Mark Remillard, ABC News.
The IRS is now dropping plans that would have required people use facial recognition technology to get access to their information. Privacy advocates and lawmakers raise concerns about the potential for ID theft. This is ABC News.
Exergen would like you to know about an important study just released by the FDA. It confirms what the medical community has known all along. Non-contact thermometers are not accurate. The study also reports that they fail to meet FDA requirements for accuracy in labeling. We can't afford to tolerate the rampant false temperature readings from non-contact thermometers. Accurate temperature measurements are essential. You need Exergen thermometers because they are accurate and backed by over 100 clinical studies. Be sure, be accurate with Exergen. Learn more at Exergen.com.
I'm Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Areas of dense fog will be possible to start in a few spots where we are seeing those temperatures below freezing fog possible. Slick conditions will be possible out the door. We are likely to see our conditions improve throughout the morning with sunshine building in by lunchtime. It is going to be a brighter day and milder one. Highs heading into the upper 40s and mid 50s. I'm meteorologist Peter Sherwood in the Weather Center.
And we have finally broken out of the freezer locker, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 33 degrees, and from this point on, it's up to scale, up to about 53 for a daytime high, and just a light wind, about 5 miles per hour. So the even the fog warning is non-existent anymore. Went out about 9 o'clock this morning. We got pretty good weather all this week, so let's enjoy life and get out and smile at the sun. 5 minutes after 9.
It's time now for My Great America with Jim and Butch, a conversation about positive things about this great country. And now here are Jim and Butch.
Good morning, Butch.
Good morning, Jim Bishop.
Let me ask you, were you ever in the military?
I was not in the military. My father was a pilot in the Air Force, flew C-130s, and I had a Senate appointment to the Air Force Academy I turned down.
Yeah.
But I was not in the military.
Well, you make a pot of coffee like the military makes a pot of coffee.
Okay, now we were going to start. We were going to start there, but you know what? I know that WCAB is changing in so many different ways, and one of the ways that I know we're changing is that we have gone from Folgers coffee to Peruvian prime roast.
That's exactly right.
And why is that? Well, that's because of our dear friends, my dear friend Monty Vega over at Small Town Coffee Roasters. They are not an advertiser on WCAB. They should be. They should be. And that's not being gratuitous or patronizing to you, Jim Bishop. They should be. And I want to say this real quickly. Jim doesn't know I'm going to say this. He doesn't really know anything I'm going to say before I say it, but we do ask God to help guide and direct us. I just want to shout out right now to any small business owner in our county, and I want to let you know something. With great respect for millennials, I have a lot of millennial friends. I've got millennial children, 4 of them. I have millennials that I mentor, my church. A lot of millennials think radio is dead, and it's not. I want to let you know that hometown radio is extremely powerful, incredibly powerful. And in the spirit of that, I want to let you know, if you're not advertising on WCAB, okay, now Jim is giving some, Americans may love social media, but survey finds it's radio that they trust. We had no idea that we were going to do this morning, did we?
Right.
Right, and you know what they call that? We've got like a radio marriage, Jim. You know, we kind of know each other here. I just want to let you know, if you haven't advertised with WCAB, you should call. You should call. Talk to Tracy. Talk to Jim. And it's a wonderful way to tell your story. And local stories are perceived as more credible than national stories, and anything that is coming organically out of Rutherford County is going to be seen as is more credible. And you know who I had a call from last night?
No.
I had a call from Bud. And whenever we say Bud, you already know the last name, don't you?
Bud Byers.
Bud Byers. He called me last night. He has taken me on as his special project. And it's been true since we started My Great America with Jim and Butch. I think we're approaching 150 episodes, if you can believe it. And so he called me last night, and you know what he did? I feel like I need a certificate on the wall. He gave me a political history of Golden Valley.
Golden Valley.
Golden Valley, right. And whenever Bud starts out with, I went all the way back to Reconstruction, you settle down in a comfortable chair because you know you're going to have a conversation that goes on for a little bit. But it was wonderful. He is so wise and insightful. He was telling me about the names of businesses out there. And, of course, Bryson Smith, who's a dear friend and the head of our local Republican Party, doing a great job. He and his dad have a concrete mixing and concrete construction business. He's out there working every day. I love, career politicians are one thing, but when the head of your local Republican Party, when you call them in the morning and you hear the sound of trucks and the sloshing of boots through the concrete, it just, there's a lot that just gives me joy.
I agree with you. He's a hardworking young man too, and he doesn't mind going in early, working late. Plus, he has other projects he's working on as well. So.
Right, and I've told him too. Democracy is messy. People having opinions, political opinions, and the like, will necessarily mean that you have disagreements. But in the midst of it all, I want to issue a clarion call to all Republicans. If you have personal disagreements or issues, work them out with people. We've got to keep our eye on the ball with this midterm election and with the presidential election in 2024. We can't have all kinds of infighting. Used to be in my neighborhood, you could have all kinds of fighting between siblings, arguments with siblings. But if somebody from the outside made a comment about your brother, those were fighting words.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that we should fight, but what I am saying is we need to fight for the things that we all have common agreement around. And it's things anchored in Scripture. So we are, pro Second Amendment. We are for life in every part of its formation. Elders and the unborn and pro-adoption. We are pro defending our borders in ways that are defensible. We are pro having a strong world stage so that we can reinforce the values of democracy. We are not for government regulation that strangles businesses through taxation with no representation. We are for the principles that have made America great. So if you have disagreements, I'm just going to say this, within our local Republican Party, work it out personally with each other. Don't give the Democrats or people that have a dark, nefarious agenda for America, don't give them any standing or license to say, see, they can't get along with each other. And I don't know who I'm speaking to today, but if you're listening to this and you're involved in dark efforts to try to split a party apart, stop it. Stop it right now, because there's too much at stake in our county, too much at stake in this state with an errant governor that we've got, and too much at stake in America, Jim, for us to have infighting. We just can't have it.
Too much important to have one or two winners and everybody else losers. We got to have unity among ideas, like the Constitution, those amendments you're talking about. We got to have that. We can't go, well, I don't like him, so I'm not going to go with him.
Right.
We got to get over that.
We've got to grow up and get back into God's Word, and don't get stuck in junior high school. Junior high school was terrible. All my friends were in high school. The thing that helps me stay anchored, I went back to this again this morning. This red Bible was my grandmother's. I don't know why it was red. This black Bible was my grandfather. Now, to him, the world was black and white.
Yeah.
There was not some middle. You know what? I'm so grateful that he's not alive in part, Jim, because the whole notion of being non-binary and creating your own monogram sexuality, that would have absolutely broken his heart. But, I go back to these scriptures, their Bibles. Why? Because I want to see where they underlined. I want to see the notes in the margin. And it was so interesting because I found a place this morning that both of them underlined and made notes. They used to have devotions with each other. It's how that marriage stayed together. They used to pray with each other. It's absolutely powerful. But you know what? I found these verses this morning that they both had underlined. And one related to a conversation that he had with Andrew Tisdale. I love him. I love his insights. And this morning, of course, he has Edward Jones here locally. Sandra Norris texted me and said she was his teacher.
Yes.
Yeah, it was so interesting. So I'm texting Sandra Norris, who of course was iconic as a teacher in the county, and she said Andrew was one of my students and apparently is still involved with some financial management in their family. But as he spoke this morning, Jim, what was on my heart was Matthew 6:19 and 20. So I went to these two Bibles to see, I wonder if Mumu and Pop-Up had underlined those, and they did. And you know what it says in my Bible, but it was marked up in theirs? Do not store up for yourselves material treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. So we need to be practical in terms of being a good steward with what God gives us. But it was such a good reminder. Way back in the day, they were remembering what we do with our time, our talent, and our treasure is an eternal investment, Jim. And I know that's on your heart every day.
Well, when you mention the tithe, everybody knows, of course, it's important to do the tithe, but we forget that time also is important, and how we relate our time to the cause of other people or cause of God's work in our lives. If we devote all our time selfishly, then we're not fulfilling our lives.
We're not. And so often, Jim, what I find too is that one of the greatest investments that we can make is the investment of encouraging other people who are around us. You know, a lot of people live lives, the literary, the writer once wrote that most people live their lives in quiet desperation. We don't know the story behind people's stories. You see somebody at the gas station, you see somebody at Food Line or Ingles pushing that cart down the aisle. You don't know that they've got a parent with Alzheimer's that's just moved into their home. You don't know what the realities are, what they're dealing with a physical situation, a cancer diagnosis. We are called to be light and life and love, not for our sake, but because Jesus has us as his hands, his feet, his eyes, and his ears. And encouragement, and you do this well, you encourage people a lot. Encouragement just means that we have to get outside of our own needs, our own wants, our own aches and pains enough to say, you know what, I'm going to reach into the seed bag, and I'm going to fling seeds of encouragement into the garden of that person's life.
I shared this, I think, one time before an earlier program, but it bears repeating again. Peter Marshall, a famous chaplain in the U.S. Senate, his wife was Catherine Marshall. She wrote several books.
Yes.
He said he wrote a prayer one time, said, Lord, help me treat everybody I meet as though their heart were breaking, because it probably is.
Right.
And that's something that's weighed on my mind and heart over the years. Somebody may be going through something I don't know anything about. So I need to handle them with respect and love.
That is so true. And you know what? For people who say, I just don't have a mission field, yes, you do. Yes. Your mission field is every place that you go today. Yeah. Your mission field is with your children. Your mission field is with that elder who's becoming as they age like a child, and it's causing you to get outside of yourself. You know, I've had conversations with my mother about this, and I've told her, 89, going on 90, I said, Mom, it is a tremendous honor and privilege to walk with you in the last of your days, however many that is. Her mother lived to be 99. My great-grandmother lived to be 100, but, 10 years goes like that. Mm-hmm. And so I keep asking God, help me to be disciplined to the moment, because God doesn't expect us to waste anything. Everything matters to God. Nothing is insignificant or incidental, and you have no idea how the word that is spoken, inspired by the power of the Spirit of God, can set in motion things that can change a community or change a person, rightly or wrongly. I mean, that father in a drunken state who says to a child, you'll never amount to anything, you have no idea the indelible mark that can make. And so let's let our words today be light and life and encouragement. Let's remember that our words and our opinions don't matter. God doesn't care how you feel. He doesn't care what you think, and he doesn't care about what you plan. He has one cry for us: know him and do his will. And if we do his will, it says, seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added to you. We start so often with all the things and then back into it. Hey, God, how you doing today? It doesn't work that way, Jim. I have encyclopedias of the train wreck of my life when I started out by saying, God, okay, it's my day today. I'm going to make something important of it. And he's like, no, you're not. You're going to hear my voice and do my will. And if you do my will, then the day will be life-giving and filled with encouragement. So I've learned, I don't want to learn lessons the hard way anymore.
Yeah. Brings on that thought of my mind, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto thee. And I think those kind of prayers like that has a lot of abundance to us.
It's so true. And you know what else? This is a little interlude here. Jim, I have no idea who controls the thermostat in the blue room, but I'm feeling the heat here. But
That's because the door's closed.
The door's closed. Okay. Well, but it's okay because we've learned in whatever state we are, we're going to be content. I'm going to be content in the 11 minutes that we have left.
All right, good.
So anyway, I also wanted to say this, a couple of quick things. My mother, has been downloading all of the recipes one at a time because of hers that go back sometimes a couple generations, because among the many things, as we worked through her last will and testament, the planning of her memorial service, she just wanted to get all that out of the way. I now have the incredible privilege and responsibility to carry on the torch for the family recipes.
All right.
Yeah, I've been asked to do that. So she's got me cooking with her to see all the ingredients, and I'm probably at about a C+ or a B- right now. But every time I'm there, I'm in the kitchen. I'm in the
Chef Butch.
Okay, it's one of many monikers and many hats that God has me wearing. But this is a Martin family tradition. It is a Jim's looking at it, wondering what that is. This is a Martin family tradition. It is a cranberry sauce that has some special ingredients in it that are kind of not family secrets. It's just been there for generations. It's really, really good. I'm not eating ice cream because I'm trying to lose weight, but it's great on ice cream. It's great on meats. It's great as a little sweet appetizer there. So I made one of these when I was up there, Jim, and I was able to get it. It's tight. I was able to get it through security. And so I'm gonna give that to you and Faye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just as a reminder that your co-host.
Cranberries?
Yes.
Cranberries.
Yes.
When I looked at it, I thought it was beets.
No, it's not beets. Although I do love beets and I love root vegetables, and I've learned that a lot of people don't. So anyway, that is a gift there. And then I also I have something else that's been on my heart. I think you've been noticing. I want to outfit WCAB with all kinds of patriotic things.
Yes.
And so I brought a few things last time. This is a Kleenex holder. It's a patriotics holder for Kleenexes. And Jim, with that little post-nasal drip that you have and that little sniffle, I want to give that I want to give that to you. And before we know it, it's just going to feel like a little museum that we have in here.
My great America.
My grandmother, by the way, my great-grandmother used to make macrame covers for toilet tissue and other things. And I remember as a little boy going into the restroom, and I would see these carefully handmade done. You know what I'm talking about? It was.
Yes.
I don't know that people do that much anymore.
I don't think so.
Well, it was decorative, but I remember, because I was always analytical from the time I was little, I remember asking myself, why does the toilet paper need to be covered like that? But I guess it was just decoration.
I guess.
Yeah. Jim is saying I never know what kind of questions or comments that are going to be made, but we want it all to be done by the Spirit of God. And then, of course, I brought something for Todd because he's working hard on his weight.
Yes.
And I didn't ask him this morning, but the last time we talked, it was over 50 pounds, and that's great. But I know he loves bacon, so this is a coffee cup for that strong coffee that we make back there, and the title of it is Bacon Makes Everything Better.
I like that.
Right, so that's for Todd. So those are all the gifts that I have this morning.
Well,
Let me share this with you. I've been thinking a lot recently about God's encouragements in the mundane. We look for Jesus in the miraculous up there in the sky. It often happens just in the mundane, and we had a very positive thing that happened at FreightWorks here. They have made a commitment to purchase 75 new Peterbilt trucks from the factory down in Denton, Texas. We believe it's the largest single semi-truck order in the history of Rutherford County. I'm writing an article for the Daily Courier about this. But last week, what was so great is truck number 1 rolled into the Freight Works terminal on Ports Ford Road, truck number 1.
Wow.
And Chris Davies, who's the fleet manager there, went to Charlotte to get it. And there is so much excitement in the camp. Now, it's tempered with the realization that when you have 125 or 30 drivers, everyone's wondering who gets the first truck. And there's a team that's going to Peterbilt next week. But it is such a blessing, and we acknowledge that God is the giver of all good gifts. You're going to be hearing a lot more about FreightWorks in the days ahead. It's a growing enterprise in the western part of North Carolina, which is a strategic place for trucking, so close to Route 40, which, of course, goes east and west so far. But we want to acknowledge God is the giver of good gifts. But when you see that shiny truck, you may see it before it goes out on the road. Just remember that it's the simple places of life that keep our country going. If the truckers in America, and we've been watching the truck protests up in Canada, decided I'm just having a bad day and they stopped, in 3 days you'd have nothing on your grocery shelves.
That's exactly right.
So they're our partner. FreightWorks is our partner here in the community, and we're acknowledging God for the great blessing of having that first truck come. It's his sign and his signal that great days are ahead. So more and more trucks will be coming in the months ahead, as long as they get the semiconductors and other parts that they need.
Peterbilt's top of the line when it comes to trucks.
It is. Now you get people that love Freightliner, and you get some people that love Volvo and all of that. But if you talk to an old school trucker about Peterbilts, they will tell you, hey, that is a great truck.
And the strategic location of FreightWorks right here in this county is important, because as they make the 74 interstate highway connecting Charlotte and Nashville, it's going to be a natural hub for that kind of traffic, and it's going to be great for us.
And you know what? We need to be evangelists, appropriately be evangelists for all the great things that are happening in our county. You know, there are still people that lament that the mills went away, and there are people that lament a lot of the issues that we have that are real, and they are real. It's not good when you're number 1 in the state for overdoses per capita.
Right.
But there is hope, and we can turn things around. And in the days ahead, let's remember, because I reinforced this on programs last week, if you're not registered to vote, get out there and get registered. If you don't know what candidates believe directly, don't listen to people's social media. Don't listen to the gossip. Don't you participate in the gossip. You know, I'm thankful that it looks like R.J. Aiken and some others may be pulling together the beginnings of a candidate forum where you can hear directly from people. It's one of the reasons why, Jim, I've told you this before, I have loved my time with Theo, with Ted Bell, with Chris Francis, who, while he's not running, that was a very positive 2-hour meeting that I had with him. And so get out there and meet the candidates, hear from them directly. Don't depend on your prejudice. Don't depend on he said, they said, whatever. There's too much of that going on, and it's just time for us to come clean as a county and say we're just going to move in the right direction. And remember, you can still love somebody if they vote for somebody different. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, if we don't have love in our heart, there's a problem. Right?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's we call that a pregnant pause. Well, as we come to the end here, Jim, I love this. So often you'll see this in the news. A Maryland woman who turned 100 a while back was asked by a number of people, how did you live so long? Because 100 is a long time. You see a lot in that. And her answer, they wanted a whole lot more. She kept going back to the same answer. She said, loving the Lord. Loving the Lord. She grew up in Virginia. She sang at her church. Wonderful mom and grandparents. She's got 5 grandchildren, dozens of great-grandchildren. But, you know, when she was asked the question, how did you live so long, the answer was loving the Lord. And, you know, the psalmist tells us that our worship and our righteous living will be marrow to our bones. It will be life to us. And so when we worship the living God, when we follow his precepts, when we commit to hear his voice and do his will, Jim, as we do that, a byproduct is that it brings life and health to us. I can't tell you what it's worth to me these days to put my head down on the pillow and be able to sleep. I went through so many years with tormented sleep as a workaholic, an alcoholic later in life. To be able to put my head down on the pillow and know that to the best of my ability with God as my source, I did everything that he asked me to do in a day, The need is not the call. We're surrounded by needs. We need to hear what God wants us to do. And in the spirit of that, I just feel like it's a time for us as a county to arise from the slumber, get up and find out what is it God's called me to do. His word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. You'll never go wrong asking God for wisdom, and He's promised to give it to us.
It's great words of wisdom in the program on. You always have great things to think about as we leave the Blue Room and make our way out into society.
Well, Jim, it's just sharing what God's doing in my life and my heart, and I'm so grateful that we get to walk this journey together, that God in His providence and plan knew when I was born that there would be a day I'd be in Rutherford County, I'd be at a great church, Word of Faith Fellowship, I'd be with my dear friend Jim Bishop, and we would have the chance to kindle the fires of encouraging the county every Tuesday and Thursday here on My Great America.
Spread the word, folks. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 9:05. God bless America.
God bless America.
Thank you for joining us for My Great America with Jim and Butch. Join us each Tuesday and Thursday morning at 9:05 for this enlightening program on 100.9 FM and 590 AM. It's My Great America with Jim and Butch.